Welcome to the MarTech Matrix, the podcast where technology meets marketing and the future becomes now. Every week, we dive deep into the world of marketing technology, exploring how digital tools, AI, data analytics, and innovative strategies are reshaping the marketing landscape. Join us as we navigate through this complex matrix, interviewing industry experts, dissecting emerging trends, and decoding strategies that are setting the pace in this digital age. Now to today's show. We are speaking with Clay Sharman, CEO and founder of Krateo AI, an insights and identity resolution platform designed for marketers to help them identify and build personal relationships with their customers.
Clay, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Sean. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
We're excited to have you. We like to do things very cogently around here so our listeners can get back to their day. So let's just jump right in. Tell us what business problem Krateo is solving for.
Sure. Statistically, websites, regardless of how they drive traffic in, they typically see about a 2% success rate. So think of it this way, 98 out of 100 of every web visitors that come to your site, you're not collecting meaningful data on, and frankly, they could be lost opportunities from a marketing perspective. So Krateo really focuses on identifying as many emails out of that 98 people as we can, and then top fill your funnel with up to maybe 25 or 30 times as many prospects as you would typically get from a form fill or a newsletter sign up or something like that. So we're really able to scale up your sales funnel right away with warm prospects who know your brand and have actually already visited your website.
Got it. And I guess that problem that the brands are having gets exacerbated as cookies start to deplete even further, right? As everyone knows, half the users can't be cookied anyway, so you can't retarget them through any means, and the other half is getting smaller.
Right. And on top of that, 75% of online companies do rely on third-party cookies for aspects of marketing and prospecting and revenue generation. So, this is going to be a industry-wide impact, and first-party data solutions are going to become critical moving forward. It's an immediate problem that needs to be solved today.
Got it. So what sparked the idea for Krateo?
Kind of in a nutshell, I used to do some work at an enterprise business intelligence software company, and we supported three-letter agencies who were attempting to solve inside threat detection problems. But when I looked at the tree structure of how we began sort of analyzing at the top level all the way down to a potential insider threat, you could see the analysis and the deep learning. And I was struck by the idea that there had to be a commercial application for it. And, you do a little bit of research into e-commerce and online retail alone, and you see that there's a lot of opportunity to apply deep learning to these large gaps in current consumer data understanding. So we simply wanted to crack that nut wider open and see what we could find.
Okay. So what are some of the other companies in your space, and how are you different?
Sure. There's a lot of competitors that are battling for the opportunity, obviously, but some more well-known ones might be retention.com or Wunderkind or LiveRamp, all of which are in the identity resolution space like we can be. So they'll deliver an email based on an anonymous visitor. One of the main differences we found is that they're sort of interested in delivering that list and then moving on to delivering that next list, all from an email kind of only standpoint. And even in some cases, they might be able to provide some data around that. They don't really go into areas of behavior analysis or frankly, even, kind of delivering accurate information as a major, kind of discriminator. So where Krateo comes in is we do identify the emails coming in, but then we help build demographic profiles and we layer on top kind of site behavior, how they're engaging with your website. And then on top of all of that, we do employ machine learning so that we can actually assess behavior And over time, we can really give our brands a deep understanding of how these audiences are interacting and responding from a campaign standpoint, which is completely different.
So it's the deep AI analytics based on the behavior of the users that you're identifying, rather than just the identification piece. Okay, what's the long term vision for the company? Like, what's the roadmap look like? Take us through that, maybe the next couple of years.
Sure. I mean, so right now, we would term Krateo as a generative insight platform, meaning that as we study these visitors that come onto a site and we're able to assess how they behave and interact with your campaigns, our tool can already deliver meaningful insights that a marketing team or sales group could look at and then execute on. But what we believe is possible is in the next 2 years, we think we'll be able to employ AI modeling, with historical data that we collect and with historical customer data, and we can actually build forecast models that become more of a recommendation engine. So we would be a true generative AI recommendation machine at that point, and not even stopping at insights, but actually delivering real AI based recommendations because we've been able to assess performance so we can look back and look forward.
So it sounds like you're helping brands build their very own large language models, much like a chat GPT, but now they'll be able to sort of crunch their own behavioral and user data to drive their own businesses in a very specific way, rather than relying on third party large language models.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Actually, as these third-party cookies go away and people are, kind of forced into a first-party data solution, ownership of your first-party data is critical. And so I think you hit the nail on the head, actually said it better than I did, that the LLM ability is really where we're trying to head so that people can actually get true consumer understanding at a very unique personalized business level, which again would be completely new in the industry.
Excellent. So who's your ideal customer, and how do you do you do any customization for different types of customers? Like, how do you support them?
So I think in our case, e-commerce is a broad range, and every e-commerce company could be a target. But for us, coming out of the gate, at least, we see online retail as a great first target. I would say that the companies of 10 million a year up to 100 million a year would be maybe a sweet spot. Although we have aspirations to support companies all the way up to $1 billion or more, um, because of the ability to employ modeling that can consume a lot of data, analyze a lot of data. So there's really no restriction on the size. But anyway, our ideal profile would be, a retail customer that has some maturity in their marketing activity, probably uses some data collection tools today, but is probably a little bit under resourced in terms of their ability to do the analytic, kind of work that's required to really make data meaningful. So we think those companies that are down the path, but still need some support, will be great ideal customers. In terms of tailoring the solution, our focus is really on delivering insights on these audiences that can be deployed across any of their sales channels. So it doesn't matter if their focus is on email marketing or social media marketing or display print or direct mail. It really doesn't matter. The tool deploys the same and becomes custom to the needs of the brand using it, which is again one of the great things about a continuously learning application like AI.
So can you take us through some use cases? Like, how
Sure.
would a
Yeah.
brand
Okay. So in a very specific case, we have a healthy energy drink manufacturer that's using the tool, and when they were trying to solve a very specific challenge, they were spending a lot of money to drive web traffic to their site, but what they were getting was a kind of a low net of people signing up for the newsletter or converting as customers. So, what they really want to do is they were getting good traffic. They were happy with those results. They were unhappy with the results of, people sort of volunteering and giving them useful information. And they were seeing that their acquisition costs were expensive when they had to go out and try to retarget. And they had really no idea of whether they were going to retarget the same group or whoever. So it was a lot of questions more than answers. And so, um, you know, once we were on their site and working, we were able to, significantly increase almost 25 times the number of prospects directly into their funnel right away. And that wound up converting, at the same percentage that they had been expecting, but now we 25 x'd it. So they were seeing a net yield of much higher than what they'd been getting. And overall cost to acquire these prospects dropped 8 times within 30 days. And we fully expect that as our system learns more about success and failure within a particular brand, those numbers will improve. We'll continue to drive results down to literally pennies per prospect. And that was a main, thrust, while giving them higher results from a numerical standpoint.
So you were able to increase their sales funnel with the email addresses that you gave them, so they had a bigger audience to go after. But how did they use those email addresses to reach those customers or those shoppers?
So at that point, that's great question. Email, they were able to immediately launch and execute email campaigns. But by having some understanding of the personal information that we were able to deliver on a high percentage of them, they were also able to launch social media campaigns, just uploading the lists directly into their sales channels, however they were using Meta. In this case, it was Meta. But then they were able to upload these sort of parallel campaigns. So they could launch email and social media simultaneously, knowing who they were targeting and being able to see who was coming back and having a very clear understanding of what was working and who was not responding, so that they could work multi-channels at the same time with our lists.
Got it. So if one of our listeners came on board today, how would they measure success, or how would you measure success with them so that they would know that Krateo is performing well? It's a good partner for them.
Yeah. So, the great news with Krateo is from a implementation standpoint, it's a very simple process. You insert a line of JavaScript into your website, and we begin collecting information. So success for us would be, the collection of data and the immediate kind of re-release to a new brand, so that they could go into their dashboard a day after they put us on the system and see their data populating. And then, within a couple days, they might be able to pull a list down and begin launching and executing campaigns. And then once that kind of flow of data is coming into it, it becomes a very cyclical process. And then it's just a question of going in and exporting your information directly into whatever sales platform you're using. It can be email, it can be social media, it can be a CTV. It doesn't matter. However you're reaching out to your customers, the Krateo success model would be the immediate ability to increase your sales funnel and execute these strategic campaigns, however you want to do it, across channels. And then it's a continuous loop of data flowing in at all points.
Okay, so if I could just state this for a little differently, the way our listeners might evaluate things. Um, they can get going pretty quickly with Krateo, and depending on their product sales cycle, right? Maybe some are more impulsive, like come online and buy, and some take months, right? So on average,
Right.
The first measurement might be, how many more people can I speak to, right? So how much bigger is the sales funnel, and how accurate is that data? And then further down the
Right.
line, it might be within the first 30 days, it might be a little longer depending on the product sales cycle. Are you generating more revenue from those customers that you wouldn't have spoken to without Krateo? So that's what I heard you say. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main intent, right? Reduce costs on the front end for acquisition and increase revenue on the back end, all while minimizing any increase in current spend.
So, 1 to 3 months is probably a good target, depending on or expectation, depending on the brand. Um, okay, so you mentioned putting JavaScript up on the site, and then the dashboard populating. Is there anything else that's required of the brand to get started? So day one, they say, Clay, I want to start working with you guys. You provide them with some JavaScript. They drop it into their website through their container or directly. You start collecting some data, and then what? What should they expect to happen over the next few days, week, month?
Right. So within a couple days, they get an email confirmation that the data is flowing and that they can now access the dashboard and start pulling lists. Probably within a couple weeks, there's meaningful uh, data and profile, like demographic information that we've matched against emails. So you'll begin to be able to segment some of your audience within, a few weeks of using the tool. After a month or so, now you're able to execute sales channel campaigns and, start to see real-time results of how this now new addressable audience is responding to your campaign tactics. And then the tool itself within, say 2 months is generating actual unique insights based on, customer return engagement and how they're interacting. And you begin to able to deploy these new insights right away, all while continuing to feed that initial funnel. And what's nice is over, say, that first 1 to 3 months you talk about, our tool is learning who from the anonymous crew is more likely to engage. And we're actually, the models are now looking at things from a very act-alike standpoint, assessing behavior, not just demographics. So you move from this look-alike model, which has been in use for 20 years, to this act-alike model, which is going to be a new way to engage with your customers.
So in the very short term, in the first week or even days, depending on the volume of their site, they're able to start pushing the email addresses to the platforms and running campaigns. But then as you get further out, you're then able to use that data to segment the audiences before you execute those campaigns, so that the campaigns can be more targeted. Messaging can be more targeted to the users in those buckets. You talked about the different channels: email, social media, CTV. What how do the brands get the data you're providing them into those platforms? Do they download, upload? Do you hook into them and put and automatically push them in? Talk us through that process.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is it's both. I mean, uh, for any integrations that don't exist today, it is a simple download. You can export a CSV directly from our dashboard in and then upload it directly into your system. For media channels like email platforms and, in this case, social media, Meta, we can directly upload and download information so that you can execute automatically. But it really is as simple as API integration and or export of a CSV file. But in either case, you can begin to extract and use the data immediately across any channel.
Okay, just one last question, or maybe two. Um, Talk to us about a common use case in a real life scenario. So a client that you work with that came to you with a problem, how did you address it? How did they leverage the data? And give us one that is right down the middle, not an outlier, not a bluebird, something that is very common, so that our listeners know what
Right.
to expect.
Sure. Yeah. So this is a good use case that I think a lot of companies will recognize, and that is the amount of spend that is outlaid to drive traffic to your website. So in our case, we have a drink manufacturer, a healthy energy drink manufacturer, and they spend a lot of money each month driving what turns out to be a good amount of traffic to their website. Only they're capturing a very low level of engagement, whether it's a newsletter sign up or a conversion into a customer. And so they have a high cost of acquisition because their retargeting costs to drive people back in go up, and they have no way to build any kind of relationship with this large group of anonymous people that they already brought in. So their challenge was, can we make better use of the traffic that's coming in, increase our number of signups and or conversions, hopefully both, all while somehow driving down our acquisition costs. So that, I think that's a problem that anybody who's out there using online sort of website commerce can appreciate. And so within 30 days of Krateo being on their site, we plussed up their sales funnel by 23 times than what they were getting the month before. We actually delivered personalized profile information on 16 times more customers than they had signed up the month before. And so they were able to use that data to actually begin this notion of audience segmentation and campaign targeting, which was a goal for theirs, longer range goal. And then at the same time, we reduced their per prospect acquisition cost by 8 times. And that was, again, in the first month alone. So, in terms of the challenges, they were thrilled to get more bang at the top funnel. They got more conversions out of this model, even staying at their normal threshold of conversion by giving them 23 times more prospects to look at. The number itself just increased, dramatically. So for them, it was a huge revenue windfall too, because they converted a lot more customers out of that first month, even at the normal conversion rate, all while lowering these acquisition costs.
So what I heard was you're really helping solve the leaky bucket problem, which is driving traffic to the website costs a lot of money. Those people leave, you got to go get them again. It costs a lot of money, you got to go get them again, right? And so here you get them once, now you have an email address, and it's a lot less expensive to send some emails or even target them on social media with those email addresses so that you can bring down their cost of acquisition. That to me is that's awesome. That's the winner right there. That's it for our show today, Clay. This was really informative. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to speaking again soon. Take care.
Thanks so much, Sean. This was great. Yeah, take care.
Whether you're a marketing professional, tech enthusiast, or just curious about the digital world, the MarTech Matrix has something for everyone. Tune in, get inspired, and transform the way you think about marketing and technology. Let's decode the Matrix together. Check us out at www.themartechmatrix.com for show notes, upcoming episodes, and subscribe. While you're there, submit your questions for each of our upcoming guests.